Hey everybody, welcome to Write, Read, Read. In this video, I wanted to take a moment and share with you one of my early writings. This piece that I'm going to show, it's only about a page, only a few paragraphs really. This was the first time that I sat down and really had the intention of turning this into a complete story. The other ones were just having fun, but this was my first attempt at writing. Now this one was 7 years ago. It was a long time ago, before I'd finished college, and I think I'd just gotten married. So it was a while ago, and that's going to be reflected in some of that. I wasn't a strong writer then. I feel like I'm not a strong writer now either. So don't judge me too hard, but I thought it'd be fun to share this story and give you a glimpse into that process. So as you know, again, whatever phase you're at, if you're in that early stage of just kind of throwing things onto paper and seeing what comes up, then you kind of get a glimpse into what I was doing and how I did it. And if you're further along, then you can maybe take this opportunity to reflect on your own process and how your story started and see how much it changed. That's actually what was most interesting to me as I did read through it in preparation for this video, of how much the story's changed. So I wanted to take a moment and explain a bit where the story started. So that actually the idea for this came from a dream that my wife had, and it was this big wacky dream and all these weird things going on. But there were some unique ideas in there, so I decided to take those ideas. My story is nothing like her dream. Her dream could be its own story and not really feel that similar to mine. It was a weird dream, but it was something that inspired me to come up with a unique idea for a book. The idea was that some event happened and it killed all the trees in the world. That's where the idea started. Obviously, it caused all this disruption, and one of the big commodities was wood. So wood used to be very abundant. It was easy to grow and all that. So most things were built out of it. And originally it was set kind of in a medieval setting. It's no longer in that setting, but it started in a medieval setting. So, you think of that time and, taverns and cottages and castles and things like that, but a lot of cities being built of wood. Now, fast forward to this cataclysmic event. I didn't have it defined what it was, but wood is this big commodity. And so you have scavengers that go to the ruins of these cities and find usable wood. And that usable wood can be sold on markets. Wood now became a very high class item. So you would show your wealth by having, for example, wood floors, or having a room that was entirely built of wood and not just mud or bricks or stone or things like that. Another consequence of that same cataclysm made it impossible to have children without a stone. So you'd be given this stone, and that would allow you to have a child. Now that idea is still in my book. It looks a little bit different, but it's still there. From there, the story progresses and everything is told. Reading through it, I noticed that it did change a lot. That was really cool to see where it started, that first embryo of an idea, and where it is now. It's nowhere near completion. It's not the project I'm working on right now, but have a lot of ideas for it, written a good amount for it, but I'm really just trying to focus on one now because my mind would jump between like 4 different stories. Let's jump over now to that book, and I'll read it with you, and we'll share that idea, and then I'll explain a little bit of how it's changed, not too much, because again, it's a work in progress, but where some of those ideas are now. All right, everybody, so here it is. So this project I just titled No Trees. Very quick and easy name. So this took place in the land of Erves. The main character was Drix and Trina. So Drix and Trina climbed over a crumbling wall, searching through the rubble. From the look of it, the building used to be an inn, maybe a large manor. Drix wasn't very familiar with this side of the city. Most people didn't like coming here, though it was full of valuable things. Currently, Drixens was searching for wood. Most people would pay well for any piece larger than his arm, but he had found some that were longer than 4 of him laying down. Though he'd seen the logs, it was hard to believe that a plant could ever be that big. He moved some small stones aside, trying to see under most of the rubble. If you want to find something good, you gotta dig deep. You gotta look deep, Drix thought. Most of the top wood would have been scavenged years ago. He enjoyed looking through the once great cities. One could find lots of valuable things if they know where to look. He slid down between the rotted floorboards of the building, pulling out his torch. Once lit, he scanned the small room. Dust and rubble made up most of what he could see. Along one wall, there was an opening into a small room beyond. He worked his way into what was left of the basement. It smelled old. The smell depressed him. The sight of the ruined city no longer bothered him. The smell did. It made him feel empty and alone, thinking back to the time when the city was full of life. One of the major cities of an empire long dead. He made it to the back room. It looked like a storage room. He began picking through the belongings. The bones of what looked like to be a mother and child sat in the corner, the mother wrapped around the child. They probably starved in here as the city was torn apart around them. Nothing but sadness in this room, he thought. He opened the last barrel, the wood crumbling as he lifted the lid. Inside were a few rotting animal leathers, though behind the barrel he found a bow and some pretty decent arrows. It looks like they would still work. He'd have to restring the bow, of course, but it was a great find. The only time he'd seen a bow and an arrow was in the god's palace back at Var's tower. The Holy Guard had steel bows and arrows made of petrified wood or metal. Drix would be one of the only people with a proper wooden arrows in the whole world, probably. Tying the bow and arrows to his back, Drix climbed back out of the basement. He stowed his find in the cart and began to walk back home. Evening was approaching. It looked like he had less than 2 hours to get home. I spent too long today. I won't get back till after dark. Well, that was it. That was the story. Again, it was something I sat down and wrote in just a short amount of time. But from there, the story has developed quite a bit. So the name's changed. It was a horrible name for the character. Some of the other things have changed. I didn't edit that or anything, so there were obviously a lot of mistakes and misspelling and grammatical errors and things like that. I'm not one to clean that up as I go along, and once I get to my final product, that's when I'll actually go through and do the editing and the clarifying and things like that. I found when I try to do that as I'm writing, I don't get anything done. I write very, very slowly, and I'm more worried about spelling things correctly or making sure my grammar makes sense and less about the story, and so it kills my progress. So I don't worry too much about editing. I don't worry about spelling too much. Those things can all be fixed afterwards. But that was a little taste of my original story. I want to briefly tell you where it is now so you can see how the story developed. That original idea, again, I said the name changed, but the character is no longer a scavenger. That still exists in the world, but he doesn't take as much of a part in it. There's still a lack of wood, but it's not this commodity that you're digging through ruins for. Again, some people do, but it's not as common as I was going to make it originally. Obviously, it's expanded a lot further than that, because that just gave you a little taste of it. A taste of the world and a taste of the character, and it goes much deeper than that. But that's where it started. It started with that single document. That's the whole document that I have saved. For some reason, I didn't continue to write on that page. I started a new one. I don't know why. It just starts with one page, with one word, really. Just start putting an idea down, and slowly it grows and develops into a story. Wherever you're at, just keep pushing, just keep writing. It's fun to write. At least I hope it is. If you're starting this process, then make sure you're enjoying it, because it is hard. It takes a lot of work. All right, that's it for this video. I appreciate you guys checking in. I hope you enjoyed the story. I'm not very good at reading it out loud, so hopefully it wasn't too unbearable. But hopefully you got something from it. Just keep writing. We're in this together, and I'll catch you next time.